In 1892, a quiet seamstress in London stitched garments for the wealthy. Her name was Evelyn Harrow, known for her delicate work, her silence, and the faint humming sound that drifted from her window every night. But one morning her shop was found locked from the inside. Every dress she had made that month was gone, and what the police found sewn inside the hems of her remaining fabrics would terrify the entire district. Evelyn worked from a small corner shop on St. Hollow Lane, a narrow alley surrounded by coal smoke and silence. People said her shop never closed. Even at midnight, the light from her sewing table burned faintly through the fog. She was precise, cold, maybe, but her work was flawless. The upper class adored her gowns. Brides begged for her touch on their wedding dresses. And yet, not a single person in London could recall hearing her laugh or seeing her outside after sunset. The locals whispered that she stitched her pain into her work, that each dress carried a piece of something or someone she had lost. One night, a customer, Margaret Linton, the wife of a coal merchant, came to collect her order. Evelyn handed over the gown in silence. Margaret later wrote in her journal, "The dress was exquisite, but when I touched the lining, it felt like something was pulsing beneath it." 3 days later, Margaret collapsed during dinner. Her husband swore she gasped a single word before she died: thread. The day Evelyn disappeared began like any other. The sound of her sewing echoed through the walls, rhythmic and soft. Then it stopped. For hours the neighbors waited. By nightfall they grew uneasy. When a constable forced the door open, he found the lamps still burning, but the air freezing cold. Every dress that had hung in the shop was gone. Only empty mannequins stood in a perfect circle, their arms bent upward, as if waiting for something. And on the floor, a trail of thread, black as soot, leading into the back room. Behind the curtain was a single unfinished gown, covered in what appeared to be faint brown stains. When the constable looked closer, he realized it wasn't fabric dye. It was blood. The investigators searched the shop from floor to ceiling. Inside a sewing chest, they found dozens of folded fabric scraps, labeled with initials. Each hem was sealed tightly, as if something had been hidden inside. When one officer carefully cut open the first hem, something fell out, a single human tooth. The next one contained a lock of hair. Another, a fragment of fingernail. Inside each scrap of fabric was a piece of a different person. Within hours, the police linked those initials to missing women, 12 of them, all former customers of Evelyn Harrow. And the final piece, the 13th scrap, had her own initials. Beneath a loose floorboard, detectives discovered a small leather-bound journal. The ink had faded, but parts of it remained legible. The final entry read, "Each dress must be completed with care. Each soul must be sealed, else it wanders. The city forgets their names, but my thread remembers." It became clear that Evelyn believed her sewing was preserving the spirits of the dead, a way to keep them from vanishing from memory. She thought she was saving them, but every stitch she made drew her closer to something else, something that wanted to be remembered, too. The last page was signed, not with her name, but with 13 threads tied into the paper. 30 years later, a London tailor named Arthur Bell purchased an old trunk from a demolished building, labeled Harrow and Thread. Inside, he found 12 dresses, untouched, perfectly preserved. But the longer they stayed in his shop, the more strange things began to happen. The mannequins shifted positions overnight. The air around the dresses turned icy cold, and Arthur claimed that sometimes when the candlelight hit the seams, he could see faces reflected in the fabric, faces that weren't his own. 2 weeks later, Arthur Bell disappeared. The dresses were found in a pile, every seam cut open, and 13 human teeth scattered across the floor. Today there's no trace of Harrow and Thread. The address on St. Hollow Lane was paved over during reconstruction. But locals say that, late at night, the sound of sewing can still be heard echoing beneath the street, rhythmic, patient, endless. and some antique collectors swear that if you ever come across a Victorian dress stitched with black thread, you'll find a name sewn into the lining. Always the same name, Evelyn Harrow, the seamstress who never stopped working.